Now that we understand the dynamics of the drumstick and the fulcrum, let's look at the rest of the system. I like to view this as a system of 4 hinges. The first hinge is the fulcrum, the pivot point of the stick. Moving up the arm, the second hinge is encountered at the wrist. While the wrist can do all kinds of movement, we're going to look at it as if it was a hinge on a pin going through the wrist at this angle. So it just pivots like this. Moving up the arm, the next hinge is the elbow. We can think of this as a hinge pivoting on a pin orientated this way within the system. The last hinge is the shoulder. We can think of this as a pin going through this way, and it hinges in the following fashion. The elbow just kind of swings out away from the body. You're not lifting it, it's just kind of swinging in and out. So we have the shoulder hinge, the elbow hinge, the wrist hinge, and the fulcrum hinge. Let's look how the wrist and fulcrum work together. Alright, I've marked the 2 hinge points on my hand with these black dots. This dot is the fulcrum hinge. This dot is the wrist hinge. These dots are going to help us see how these 2 hinges move and interact when playing different kinds of strokes. At the top of this video, during the upside down teeter-totter portion, I was demonstrating what are called finger strokes. They're called finger strokes because they're driven by the fingers. To do them, basically I'm trying to immobilize both of the hinges so that the teeter-tottering can be smooth between the fingers and the rebound of the stick. We can also hinge from our wrist and make what are called wrist strokes, moving the hand in this fashion. Now, even though they're called wrist strokes, there aren't any muscles in the wrist. The wrist strokes are actually made by the muscles in your forearm. You can feel it when you move this up and down. There are 2 types of wrist strokes. This is what I call a closed hand wrist stroke. My fingers are around the stick, they're cradling the stick. It's not squeezing the stick, but just lightly cradling the stick. If I take the stick out, you can kind of see this grip. You can feel this. Basically, all you're doing is you take your hand and you take these 3 fingers and lightly touch the palm. Turn it over, and if you tap the tip of your finger on the pad, this is what a closed hand wrist stroke feels like. These are small. You can make them from up here if you like, but it's the same basic thing. These fingers are cradling the stick. If we drop back down into finger position, we can actually use this position to make some wrist strokes as well. Instead of driving from here, making normal finger strokes, if we drive from our wrist and move the whole assembly, we can make what I call open-handed wrist strokes. So we have open-handed wrist strokes, closed-hand wrist strokes, finger strokes. Getting into finger position from this position entails basically dropping our hand, or opening our hand and letting the stick recoil. This is the open stroke of the open-close technique. It's the move into finger control position. When I come out of finger control position, I just close my hand, and that is the close from open-close technique. So if we do the move into finger control position and come out of finger control position without playing any finger strokes, we have an open-close two-note stroke. Notice how the two hinges, the wrist and the fulcrum, are oscillating back and forth. If you're having trouble getting the free stroke to happen, you can try this. Over here I have a music stand I put on, and we'll use the music stand to simulate the rebound from the drum. So, if I start from my wrist position, go down, touch the music stand, but follow through and let the music stand support the stick, there's that same, now we're in finger position. If I just close it, notice when I'm doing this, I'm keeping those two middle and ring finger on the stick. This is kind of what this open close thing feels like. We can use our understanding of these two hinge points to help us see when double strokes are used versus when single strokes are being used. A simple example of this is a double stroke roll. The way most of us are taught, initially we're saying, the teacher will say, play two singles with the right and then two singles with the left. So we'd be going right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. You can see that these are single strokes because the fulcrum is going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. But the drum is only producing one sound on each cycle. Down, down, dot, 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 but the fulcrum's down, up, down, up. In a double stroke, you'll see this. You will see the fulcrum go down and up, but at a slower speed, and you will hear a note on the down and on the up. Da 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 da. Another giveaway for this is watching this first big knuckle right here. When you see that go down and you hear it go down and up, but you're hearing more than one note, you know that a multi-note stroke is being employed. That's the giveaway for it. And even people that think they aren't playing open-close technique, if they have a good double stroke roll, that's exactly what they're doing with their hand. There's a slight opening and closing. That's how they're getting that double stroke movement. It's natural. It's the way the hand works. We can also use these two dots to see if someone is actually using Moeller technique or open-close technique. Basically, open-close technique, we've looked at where we go down, let's call a three-note stroke. We're going to go open, bounce, close. Da da dee 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 da da dee. In Moeller, we employ a whipping motion, and that's driven from the wrist. So the wrist is going to be the first. We're going to see the wrist move up like this, and the fulcrum kind of following. Whip, whip, da 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 da, as opposed to open close, da 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 da. Moeller. They're two different movements.